Hello everyone, I'm Shavik and today's topic is the common mistakes the Scrum Master makes. As we all know, Scrum Master is a leader, a guide, a mentor, right? So the role demands accountability, the accountability for team's effectiveness and how Scrum is implemented within the team, right? In fact, what I think is a Scrum Master is a very high impact role. And as I have seen in my experience, many a times Scrum Master makes mistakes, knowingly or unknowingly. So they actually struggle to understand and implement the concepts. Being a Scrum Master can be sometimes a really tough task. If someone is unaware of the Scrum Master skill and what is expected out from him, I'll say it's really going to be a very tough task for that person. So yeah, let me share a few of the mistakes which a Scrum Master should never do while implementing. To start with, say the Scrum Master is removing all the impediments for the team. This is making the team dependent and not letting them grow as a self-managing team. A Scrum Master's job is to teach the team to be self-managed and cross-functional, so that they can get the work done, right? So people often they shrug off their accountability and expect the Scrum Master to do the PMO role, or even solve the problems which they could not which they could have solved internally. So this is again not the right way. Scrum Master must teach the team. If there is a need, he can guide them or coach them to solve the problems which they could solve internally. Right? They should not come back to Scrum Master every now and then. And this is again not the right way to do. Right? And if I have to say, like, Scrum Master must teach the team that they are their own first line of defense, and they should not push everything into the Scrum Master's bucket, right? And Scrum Master, should not get overloaded with the solving the impediments, right? Scrum Master should be an observer, a coach, and making sure that the facilitation is done, and he should use his anticipation skills to anticipate issues so that the team can start looking for solution a little bit in advance. Next one is when a Scrum Master plays the role of a project manager in addition to their role of a Scrum Master. So these are the conflicting tasks or conflicting roles, right? Think of them as having two hats, and knowing when to wear which one. And it's get ugly sometimes, right, when you attempt to wear both the hats at the same time. So many of them think that a Scrum Master is a managerial role, which is again not true at all, and they act like a project manager, forcing the team to meet the deadline, which is again maybe a conflict of interest, right? So I'll suggest Scrum Master and project manager are two distinguished roles, and they should not be clubbed or think or maybe treated as one. Moving on to the next one. So there are sometimes there are Scrum Masters who acts like a boss of the team, right? They decide on everything on team's behalf. They assign work, they make unilateral decisions for the team, and they tell people what needs to be done. Well, at times when the whole team is new to Scrum, or the team comprised of lot many freshers who can't take the decisions, Scrum Master can handhold the team, initially, but making it a practice is something I will never suggest. Scrum Master doesn't have this authority, right? In Scrum, the whole team is accountable for creating value, right? And Scrum team is a self-managing team, which is written in Scrum Guide, right? Scrum team is a self-managing team, and Scrum Master is accountable for team's effectiveness by helping, coaching, facilitating, and even by training. So team has to learn and improve. Scrum Masters are enablers, and they can only influence without authority. Moving to the next one. So sometimes there are Scrum Masters working only according to the Scrum Guide, or to what they were taught in their 2-day certification classes. So they follow the mechanics of the typical Scrum workflow, the events, without actually focusing on their real job, which is to help the team to self-improve, right? So we need to understand that the Scrum Guide is just a guide, right? It's not a Bible or something. And there's like plenty of other things that a Scrum Master needs to be aware of, to help the team to grow. And those are not written in the Scrum Guide, right? And that can be that even no one can teach you, or you can't even learn in a 2 days class, right? So for just to give an example, maybe extreme programming or Kanban, or prioritizing or facilitation techniques. So without knowledge of these complementary frameworks or techniques and approaches, Scrum Master can't do the justice to his job. So they see doing Scrum as a goal, whereas they need to focus on being agile as their goal, right? It's important to reflect on the purpose, right? It is important to reflect on the purpose. Like this should be clear to each member of a Scrum team. By the way, the name is Scrum Master, right? The name Scrum Master is partly to be blamed for this because it implies that the role is only adhering to the Scrum. Okay, I'll move on to the next one. So at times there are people. Okay, I'm not saying a Scrum Master. I'm saying just people. Who makes mistakes by thinking that they actually know anything or everything after taking a 3 day or 2 day class or getting a certification. So what I'll say is a CSM or PSM is just a bare minimum introduction to a subset of necessary subjects, right? It's just a maybe a starting point to getting to know Scrum or getting into this agile world. So you need to learn a lot more, before you can begin to be even marginally competent. So they think passing an exam equips them with all the necessary skills and knowledge, and they make the mistake of thinking that they know everything post certification. So I have always thought of that exam as passing your driving test. It doesn't guarantee you that you will be safe on the roads where there's real traffic, people zooming past you, and it doesn't prepare you for your first job as a driving a Uber. So being a passenger to pick up more details by looking and by observing and by experiencing that you may have missed during your course and exams helps you in a great deal. Another mistake is when Scrum Master is hesitant of trying new thing or experiment with Scrum. So Scrum is just a framework, right, to create value in complex environments. So Scrum Master must add practices on top of the Scrum. So development practices like peer programming or test-driven development, or collaboration practices like hackathon or story mapping, planning practices like planning poker, or multiple product management practices are a few of the examples to explore. So Scrum Master needs to foster this and coach the team with experimenting with the and finding the practices which will suit the team or suit the project or the program they are supporting. So he should have that learning mindset all the time to try out new things and find out what works better for the team to generate the maximum value. Moving to the next one. So there are Scrum Masters who are not shielding the team from stakeholders or any external interventions who disrupt the team. So there can be a scenario where business bypass the product owner and reach out to the team to get something done, or the line manager asks the team members to perform some other work, or a dependent teams are directly reaching out to their favorite developers and to fast track their work. So Scrum Master should teach the team how to shield themselves from these disruptions, right? And Scrum Master could also help the stakeholders understand how they can best contribute to the success of the team. So best way is to clarify all the Scrum roles and their responsibilities, right? So and the value of all the events. So once Scrum Master communicate this to all the team members, to the stakeholders, to the dependent teams in a clear and concise way, and make a process and put that in a practice, things will work well. Next one is when the Scrum Master becomes a team secretary, writing every note for every meeting and discussions, becoming the one single point of person between the product owner and the developers, instead of getting the product owner to collaborate with the directly with the developers. So I have seen teams facing challenges to interact with the product owner to get an information. So at this point, the Scrum Master communicates with the product owner to remove the communication barriers and maybe to furnishes the needs of the team members. So after asking the relevant queries to the product owner, the Scrum Master relays the same to the team. So instead of being a mediator, a Scrum Master should promote, facilitate, or collaborative sessions between the product owner and the developer. And coming to the last one for the today. So many of the Scrum Master, they only focus on their team. So they never realize that they have a role to play towards the organization. So that is again not right. The Scrum Master should coach and train the organization as well. They should engage with other Scrum Masters and agile community within the organizations and share their learnings and challenges. And if say the organization is very new to agile, maybe they should lead and create a center of excellence or create a agile community within the organization, right? And they must spare some time, to bring in the agility on those areas or those section within the organization where agile is not yet implemented, or maybe they are still in the initial days of agile adoption. Before I conclude, I must say that everyone makes mistakes, right? I too did during my initial days as a Scrum Master. In fact, I still do make mistakes. But what I do is I learn from it. I learn quickly. I seek help, and I rectify those mistakes in future. So we must seek improvement. Learn from others, find a mentor, and seek guidance. And strive to get better in our craft, which is Scrum Mastery. So we must manage to limit these kind of Scrum Master mistakes to improve the our team's effectiveness, and push them towards becoming a high performance team. Thanks for listening. Cheers.